Hi, I'm Erin Donley, and I'm here with Marilena Fallaris, the author of Womenemies. Hi, Marilena. Hello. You
Hi,
wrote this
Erin.
book, and it is described as a raw look into the way women treat each other, with the goal of us coming together in the end. Oh my gosh, thank you. I've been wanting to have this conversation my whole life. Why is this such a taboo topic?
And thank you for saying that. I've actually gotten a lot of feedback from people saying, I've been wanting to have this conversation. And it goes right into your point. Why is this such a taboo topic? I think it's a topic that we have individually talked one-on-one with our girlfriends, with our colleagues, but on a mass stage, we don't talk. And the reason why, and I've noticed this, whether it's in the workplace, with mothers, with other women in other social settings, is that they think by addressing it, it's bringing light or breathing energy into cattiness. Oh, why should we should just say, be nice. Let's not talk about it. Let's band together. And when we band together against men, like for equal pay or not, sexual harassment, anything like that, we're really good at banding together. But when it comes to actually saying, I treated her wrong, or this happens in many stages of life, whether it's with families, we don't want to talk about it because we feel like we're being a catty by addressing it. And that's why it perpetuates until we address the elephant in the room. And I like to say, you can't eliminate the enemy you don't see. So how to address the enemy, hence the book Women and Enemies, Womenemies. You have to address the enemy to eliminate it. And the enemy isn't a woman, it's their actions. And we can always change our actions. And that's the tone of the book is a hopeful one. How do we support and uplift our fellow women? And that's the ticket to eliminating womenemies. And each chapter gives an instance of how we are a womenemy to each other and gives a positive example of how women should be acting. I know the should word is a hot word that we usually don't use, but in this case, it's a positive way of saying, this is in the workplace, in my life, how someone uplifted me. And if we turn our energy towards that, we will eliminate the instances of womenemies.
So I'm hearing you say that, it's really our social conditioning that has caused us to be this way. It's not an inherent flaw of that woman. So we're fighting the social conditioning rather than let's go after her or those women.
Absolutely. And speaking about social conditioning, I think it's socially relevant, and it's actually morally conscious of me to bring up right now. And it's not addressed in my book. But white women need to speak up for Black women and women of color, but specifically Black women. It's not enough for white women to sit back and they hear derogatory comments. They see inequalities, whether it's in any stage of life, the work, socially, with schools, and just sit back and say, well, I don't agree with it, but I don't want to ruffle feathers. I'm still fighting for my equality. So I'm just going to sit back and not have
That's right.
my fellow colleague, my fellow friend, my fellow woman back. And in this case, especially with everything that's going on in the world, I mean, it's been a topic for many, many years, but this needs to be addressed. And I just want to speak on that because it's something that's not just relevant now, but in general, and we need to take action.
Right. White women still get paid more than women of color. So
Yes.
before we go and fight men for equal pay, we need to bond with our fellow sisters and make sure we're all getting the same.
Yes.
And then we could tackle this bigger issue. So
Right.
thanks for bringing that up. One of your chapters, chapter 4, that really, really stuck with me. Page 22, Marilena, this was huge. And I want to read this paragraph because it says it all. So we're talking about, this chapter is called Don't Be the Other Woman.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking about infidelity, and this can apply to heterosexual relationships or lesbian relationships, whatever. So you talk a lot about your heterosexual relationship here, so there's a little bit of man stuff in here, but you said the blame during infidelity goes 100% to the man, but we become womenemies to each other when we knowingly engage in relations with married or otherwise taken people. We also when we don't tell our friends they are being cheated on. And third, and when we don't tell our friend to stop being the other woman. That is profound. No one's ever told me this as a woman, and I'm 45 years old. And I find myself in every single offense here. So this is revolutionary. How did you come to write about this infidelity topic?
Well, it came from my personal, I was engaged, wedding dress bought, invitations about to go out, and the other woman, to my then fiance, contacted me, and we went back and forth. And again, until she attacked me aggressively, I actually did not blame her. I took a step back and said, yes, it's sad when another woman knows that a man is in a relationship, or a female is in a relationship, if it's, lesbian couple, and they knowingly engage. And the reason I wrote this book, and I talked about there's different instances, because it's not just the other woman. It's when you're the friend, and it's when, so let's start with the other woman. The other woman sometimes, sometimes they don't know, and that's not their fault. When they know, they have a call to action.
When they know they're entangled.
They know that person is other, in my case, the woman knew for 2 years. I didn't. But when they know, they need to speak up. If they feel comfortable, maybe even letting that woman know. If they don't know the woman, at least back out and let the man deal with it, because they are basically, they don't know what that other woman knows or doesn't know. I've heard some other women, I had a friend who was the other woman, and she goes, well, she must know on some level, or is she stupid? He shouldn't be with her. We're meant to be. And
or I'm not going to pay. That's their business.
Right. And so that, you don't know the insecurities, you don't know what's going on, and you don't know the devastating effect it is on a woman. Being the person that I was when I found out that there was another woman, I went through extreme psychological self-worth. And again, the man is completely to blame. But what bothered me is when the woman knew I was around and continued to do that. And they say, oh, well, I'm better. And then it becomes a competition, which is sick. Now, also, though, judging the other woman, because they can change. There could be, there are women who make mistakes. Everyone does. Don't label them, because I've also seen that happen where one person makes a mistake and then they get labeled with the scarlet letter right on them. And that's not right either. But then also with the friendships, I've been in friendships where, I've had a friend said, oh, he really loves me, he's going to leave her. And really, if he really loves you, he would be with you. And wait till that separation happens. But you're basically causing strife, and you're engaging in, two wrongs won't make a right. You're engaging in relations with somebody who has a commitment to somebody else. And, and I'm a lawyer, there's contractual relations. You're basically interfering with contractual relations, but on an emotional level. And don't villainize the wife. Don't villainize the fiance, just like you don't want to be villainized and called, something as well. So it's a thing, and it's horrible, and they think that they have a one-up on somebody because they took that person's man.
Oh, Lord, no.
And I would like to end, though, the biggest lesson I learned also was from my friend's mother, and I talk about in the book. You can't start a healthy relationship off of someone else's pain. So I do talk about I had a friend who was the other woman, ended up then dating that person. He finally left the person he was with, and it ended up not working well, because then you have trust issues. It's not just karma. You built something off of somebody else's pain, off of another woman's pain.
Yeah, and I was thinking too about when a married man is going, becoming entangled with another woman. He's actually using her.
Right.
You're actually being used. It's not a compliment.
No,
so that's something to notice. That really woke me up.
It's something, you're being used, you're not being valued, you're not valuing yourself. And that goes,
yes.
You have to be your biggest supporter. And then when you're a friend, you have to tell them. It's the most uncomfortable thing. You think they're going to shoot the messenger if you say, I know you're being cheated on, and they might not talk to you. But if your love for that woman is for her to be healthy, physically, mentally, emotionally, you have to say it. And if you are the other woman, you should say it too. If friends need to support each other and uplift each other. And, again, though, I go back, we cannot blame the other woman.
I got you on that. Let's move along. Definitely.
Yeah.
We have a lot more to talk about. Yeah. I want you to briefly touch on this chapter. It was called Don't Be a Mother Judger. And there's so many ways that we judge women who have given birth, from their, weight gain or weight loss, and did they bottle feed or breastfeed? It's endless. But there was one thing that you mentioned right off the bat, is that we judge women who don't have children. And that's me. And again, I've always wanted someone to talk about this because I have found some of the harshest judgment comes from other women. It's sort of a little bit of an envy and a little bit of a pity. And like, oh, but we still really like you. And it's, tell
Ugh.
me, what brought you to that realization that this is going on? Because you're a mom.
I'm a mom now. I have a 2-year-old up here. That's when he was, 1. And which I love. He's a blessing. But when I was even writing this, I said, before we even get to being a mother, when we women come into this earth, we still have this. It's assumed we're gonna get married, have kids. We are biologically able to create life, which is magical in itself. But that doesn't always mean we're gonna take that route. Men come in and they do work, they do things. What are you going to be? I'm going to be an astronaut. What are you going to be? Make sure for your woman that it balances with when you have children. And what I notice is in our society, comments like, and I noticed this when I was in my 20s at work, enjoy sleeping in now. Enjoy being able to go out, having to pre-scheduled time. Because when you have kids, enjoy the free time right now. Who said I wanted to have a kid? In my case, I did. But who said I wanted to have a kid? And you're just putting that on me and making me explain myself why I don't want to have children. Like you shouldn't even have to have that necessity. And I
this
do.
Is the social conditioning we're talking about. We're just programmed to speak this way to each other. And this is becoming like anti-sexist by breaking these habits.
It is. And I've heard women, to your point, in the workplace and with friends saying, what type of woman wouldn't want to have kids? What's wrong with her?
Yes, it's her loss. That's what I've heard. Oh, that's her loss. Wow. This is the greatest love you could ever imagine. Too bad she's never going to feel it. It's just like, oh, that's so painful to hear.
And the greatest love, wasn't it Whitney Houston, is in ourselves when she sang.
Of course.
And what I wrote in the book, though, is we need to stop that and also realize, because that creates dysfunction. Because I know there have been people who feel forced to have kids, and what happens? They end up suffering, and the child ends up suffering. So why do we need more unhappy people in this world just going along with societal norms? I have had friends who chose not to, and they're completely happy and satisfied, and their life is so full of joy. And they are wonderful to my son. They are wonderful people, and it doesn't, the whole thing of, oh, it's okay if you don't have kids. No, it's a choice either way. Just like I choose to get married. Some people don't choose to get married. That's fine. They're being them, whoever they are authentically. They're loving themselves enough to know that they're not going to bring in another child to the world that they won't be able to give 100% of themselves.
Right. Thank you again.
Yeah.
Let's go into the final part of this where, every woman in the workplace has run across another woman who is gossipy or backstabby or super competitive. And it's interesting because I once, this woman, Shell Bailey, in my office, I was sitting in front of her and complaining to her about all these women that were driving me crazy. And she said, Erin, I just chose one day to love women no matter what. And I remember thinking, I can't do that. But, I never forgot what she said. And I will tell you, Shell, if you're watching this, I do love women no matter what right now. When you're soft on yourself, you become softer on other women. And so just mention 1 or 2 things that women can think about in the workplace in terms of supporting each other.
Yeah, I think the first thing is look at it as a place of abundance and not scarcity. When you're uplifting one woman, it doesn't mean that you're not going to get promoted one day. Even if you don't get promoted right then, there's not one seat at the table. The sooner we start saying, get that out of my head, I'm so happy. The sooner we start saying there's more seats at the table for women to grow within a company, the sooner we're going to be less competitive, and the sooner we're going to uplift rather than try to take that woman down to take her spot. And so when we look at that and say, you know what, I'm going to now support her. I'm going to write an email giving feedback saying she did a great job in this, because that only supports another woman, and she'll support you back in her way as well. But it shows to the world that you're confident and that you're happy for somebody else. And I think it comes from a point of scarcity, that we're afraid that there's only a finite space at the table in companies, in life, in career goals, and that when somebody else succeeds, that means that they're taking something away from us, which means it's not true. So I think that's the number one part.
So are you saying that we view women leaders sometimes as a threat and not a
Yeah,
companion?
right. And then what causes them to do is leaders end up being more protective when there's a younger person coming in trying to rise up the ranks, and they won't mentor them completely because they think their spot might be taken. So it goes both ways. But I've been blessed. I had an amazing mentor for 4 years, and she gave me feedback, tough love. She shined me to upper management within months of starting my new job and was never terrified. I was her assistant manager, and she wanted me to shine. And she's an amazing person that's really powerful in that company because she uplifts and shines light on other people. And so that's I think the one thing. And then the other thing is stop using the energy to gossip, to focus on the negative. If there's a person who, because listen, there's going to be people at work. I've been a victim of that. I've probably done it. I've given it right back and justified it. Oh, they've done it to me. But that energy of gossip, of trying to get somebody, of protecting ourselves, if we eliminated that, the productivity and the energy and the happiness of coming to work would increase. So if there is an instance of a womenemy, address it in work. I've had meetings where I said, listen, and you don't have to come off on the aggressive saying, this is how I feel. I could be wrong. Can we work it out? Have I done something? Maybe I have. I don't know. It's not my intent. I want to work. I want to uplift you. What's going on so that we can make this a productive way? And two things can happen. If they really want to engage and fix through it, they can say, hey, I felt this when you did this, but let's work on it. Or they can say, no, it happened to me. No, you're doing great. No problem. And you know what? At least they're on notice now that you aren't afraid to just nip it in the bud and discuss it. And then a weight lifts off of you and you go about your business.
Yes, address the elephant in the room.
Yes.
And so you help businesses do this. You help businesses learn more about women dynamics and relationships as a way to grow productivity and harmony within the company, right?
100% you need, well, and it's the elephant in the room. It's having that conversation and teaching women leaders and women in the workforce, not just women, men too, how to address issues, why companies need to come from a point of abundance, that there's multiple levels, we are promoting multiple women. It's not just one woman that's an, VP, one woman that's a general manager. There's multiple, there's no, when women come back, if they choose to take a maternity leave, they're not put on a different track. They're supporting women's growth. So then those women know to support other women, that they won't have a spot taken away from them. And yeah, I speak to that. I speak to also the detrimental effects on the bullying and the energy zappers when these instances are not addressed, and it's teaching managers how to identify them and coach their direct reports how to have those productive conversations, and also how to give feedback. And literally it takes 2 seconds to write an email and give somebody's boss in a different department, hey, this person really helped me with a project, and shine the light on them, because women sometimes are not self-promoters. So we needed to promote other women, and then teaching women how to promote themselves as well, and that it's not bragging. So yeah, I talk about different things, and that's how you eliminate womenemies in the instance of womenemies.
Thank you for that. That's so important. It seems like essentially you're teaching what oppression looks, sounds, and feels like, so that we can identify it in ourselves and others and address it. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, and then the last part is talking to like human resources and so forth, because what you just said about oppression, yes, we tell women they need to ask for their worth, but we needed to say back, and companies need to start paying women at equal. Yes, men are more adept for centuries to say, I want this, I'm going to go for this. But if someone's at equal level, and women right now are still shy or scared to ask for more, they're just happy to have a job, we need to identify that talent and show that they get equal pay. And understand the psychology of why some people, and it could be, women, minorities, don't ask, and address it through the company rather than waiting for them to ask. Because when they get to that point, it might not be good.
Great point. I want to leave everyone with 2 books that we recommend besides Womenemies.
Yes.
You can get this on Amazon, is that correct?
Yes, on Amazon, and you can, in the link too is through womenemies.com. But yeah, Amazon,
Thank you. And we want to mention 2 other books.
Yes.
This one is Female Firebrands by Michaela Kiner, and she talks a lot about privilege and Me Too and pregnancy discrimination in the workplace.
Right, and female rivalry.
Yes, and Female
Yes.
Rivalry. It's a great book. And another essential one is The Memo by Minda Harts. And this is what women of color need to know to secure a seat at the table. And I think this is so important for us white women to read. We're really going to get insight into what it's like in the workplace to be a person of color, a woman of color.
100, and I have that on my reading list, so thank you for that recommendation.
Yeah, and Minda's great to follow online too, Minda Harts. Marilena, thank you so much for your time and your wisdom and the energy that you put into this book. May it serve women and bond us and make us love each other unconditionally. Thank you for everything.
Of course, and it's my pleasure, and I really appreciate everything that you're doing as well to highlight these important topics.
Yep, I love the hard topics, and so do you, so soul sister. Thank you.
Of course.
Bye-bye.
Bye.